Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Culture Boutique Show. Joining me today is Stephanie Barnett of £67 Mall. Stephanie, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you for actually giving me the change of scenery. It's been very refreshing.
No, yeah, it has been for sure. And it's been tough for everyone, hasn't it, lockdown? But
yeah, absolutely.
Change is good, as you mentioned. So with regards to that, your career, if we dive into it, began at Preta Dine, London, and from there you've had various experiences in between before joining £67 Mall. How did those past experiences help prepare you for your arrival at £67 Mall?
Well, Preta Dine in particular actually prepared me for starting at 7 or 8 o'clock, doing a full sort of 12 hours and then doing an evening service and then having the stamina to actually go for post-work drinks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that sort of solid working day to then sort of extend yourself into the drinks was definitely preparation for 67 in particular.
Yes.
But also that was my first sort of real experience in hospitality and very, very fast-paced. High-end service, obviously, and understanding food and understanding wine. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've always worked in hospitality. Even, I think my first job was about 14 or 15, just working for a little catering company. Mm-hmm. And so something like that, where it's high profile, it's all about sort of being really interesting with food and doing something a little bit outside the box. Mm-hmm. And the chef was great. He then worked at Nuno Mendes, I think is his name. He went to Chiltern Firehouse eventually. But no, it was an amazing experience. And yeah, started off my stamina for the work hard and play hard that you need in hospitality.
Well, absolutely. And for the people who may not be in the know, what is £67 Mall to the outside person looking in?
It's a private members club that was founded by people who love wine. But what's slightly different about the model, I suppose, is that I suppose most members clubs, you are a member there because you want to be part of a particular network. With 67, your membership fees essentially sort of counteract the pricing that you pay for wine. So we have very, very small cash markups as opposed to a restaurant, which may charge 3 or 4 times the price of the wine. So looking in, you have the biggest wine list in Europe and the biggest offering by the glass. So if it's a very rare bottle, you don't even have to even commit to a glass. You can actually purchase a 15 milliliter pour of some of the rarest wines in the world. So it's making really great wine, really accessible and not breaking the bank as well. So in terms of the membership process, we do ask for a proposer or a seconder. But to be honest, we don't, if someone is just really enthusiastic about wine, really interested, we'll just meet them, suss them out, give them a glass and see if they're our cup of tea, basically.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Very prestigious. And being the senior communications manager, what does that entail?
It sort of encompasses everything in the business, to be honest, because especially when it comes to wine communications, it's very different because you don't, especially as a members club, you don't want to be perceived as inaccessible. You also need to make wine approachable. Mm-hmm. And that's really important for us to not only talk about the big expensive bottles, it's about all budgets, all producers, and they're just really great wines that we believe should be in the club. So you have that side of the communications, which is making wine fun, interesting, and appeal to all ages, you know, all fields of work and all industries. And then membership also falls under that as well. So a massive thing about a members club is cultivating the members. So even outside of wine, you're constantly trying to think of new ways to bring different groups of members together, because wine is always the common denominator, but you can stem far beyond that. You know, wine falls into art, jewelry, literature, sport, everything. You can always find an origin or a wine that will link closely to it. So that's another big part as well, is finding new pockets of members that can meet over a glass, but not necessarily because of the glass, and nurturing the membership as well, which is sort of in the similar category as that. And yeah, especially over the last year, I think I've learnt more in the last year than I have throughout my entire time there, which is obviously a massive digital push, which I think everyone has felt in the last year. So yeah.
All right, and putting you on a spot here, you mentioned about the different prices that you can get per bottle, per glass. So what would be off the top of your head, the most inexpensive bottle £6-7 Pall Mall offers, and one of the most expensive for one bottle?
So all of our bottles start at £40. So that's the sort of bottom line. So it's £40 and upwards. The most expensive one we had was a Tompi, which was £18,000.
Wow. Has anybody purchased that yet, or?
Well, we did it by the glass, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I mean, you could probably commit to, I don't know, maybe it was a very, very large format as well. I'm trying to remember what it was. This was a few years ago now. But it looked beautiful, obviously. And yeah, we sold it by the glass. I think it was £667 a glass. Yeah.
Was it quite popular?
So now I'm trying to do the maths as to what size that bottle was. I probably...
One glass.
No, I can't.
Good
sorry.
money. Good money. But
I need another coffee to do that maths.
all right. Well, the elephant in the room, as we spoke about earlier, COVID-19. Every business has had to adapt, and it seems like 2020 was a vintage year for the club, regardless. In 2020, it was also announced that a second location would be unveiled in Singapore. How's that going, and are there any further locations in the future?
So yeah, we were actually supposed to open Singapore in November last year, but obviously the elephant in the room stomped all over that.
Yeah.
So construction began again in January. And with Singapore, it's slightly different because their rules and regulations have really fluctuated, much like we have. But they have been able to open up slightly more than we have. So it's things like you could have events of up to 8 people, for example. So we would invite 8 members or 4 members and their friends. So in terms of building the membership, I mean, again, it's been entirely organic. And it's actually been amazing to see the demand that people have for the wine club over there. So that's been really exciting. But yeah, construction back in full swing. So we're aiming for autumn this year.
Oh, really good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With £67 Mall, how does the membership aspect work? How do you join? What are the different options available? And what can members expect?
So to join, it's simply filling out an application form. And on that, there's a personal statement. So we really love to hear why you want to be a member of 67 specifically. And what's really lovely is usually, because wine is such a personal thing, you know, those statements are all about people's families or what they have in their cellar or, you know, what wines they want to drink, what wines they've got. So it's really lovely to see that side of a member rather than just because they want to be have another members club on their belt. It's really all about, it's all very personal for them. So that's great. And so it's literally simply filling out a membership form and sending it across to our membership manager. We then have a membership committee meeting every month, which is comprised of myself, Natasha, our membership manager, and a whole spectrum of people. Actually, it's people who are in the wine industry, but then we break it out as well. So we've got someone from fashion, someone from retail, just to give a really lovely overview, because they'll notice things about members that maybe, you know, the wine people will be like, this is amazing.
Yes.
But we are, you know, more about the person as well as what they might know about wine. And in terms of categories, we have a sort of a London annual. We then have country. So if you live further than 50 miles away from the club, we have trade membership, which is obviously very important for us because it means that people who work in the wine industry can still have access to the club at a slightly lesser fee. Because again, it's super important for us that our members actually love the trade side of wine. So for us to be able to host these trade tastings and our members can join them as though they're a wine buyer from a restaurant, you know, so that aspect is really important for us too. And also under 35s as well and under 30s. So the younger memberships are something that we really nurture, and we have these hilarious giant dinner parties, we like to call them, where our members just bring a bottle that we don't, you know, and I usually say don't spend more than 30 quid on this bottle because it's not about, you know, Billy Big Bollocks, if I can say that.
Of course you can.
Bringing in, you know, their Chateau Latour just to swirl it around and act like a bit of a ponce. It's about what if you were going into a merchant or something that you've got at home and just bringing it on the table and sharing it with the other members. So again, it's just making it more accessible to the younger generation as well.
How you find that with the younger generation? Because I know from experience when I first got involved in wine 10 years ago, I was 23. It was quite intimidating for me. Because you look up and there's a lot of people in their mid-40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I know you know this. and it can be very imposing. But when you've got someone who can show the ropes, it's not as daunting as what it's made out to be.
Yeah.
How are the younger audience being receptive to joining with 6-7 Pall Mall? Is there quite an increase?
Yeah, massively so. Massively. Yeah. And what we always try and encourage as well is any form of under 30s, under 35s event we do, it's all about bringing your mates. So we have 60 people downstairs and we all get plastered, to be perfectly honest.
Yes.
We also, I did 1 bottle per person is also never enough at these events. So we always pick a very reasonably priced additional wine list that's very clear on the table. And we just go for gold, basically. And it's just about making it fun, I think. And when you understand a bit more about what's behind your glass, you are just more interested, you know. So we'll do these events, whether it's the dinner party, whether it's just drinks parties. We'll go outside the club sometimes to just sort of bring the younger generation together. But understanding more about what's in your glass will then just their friends want to learn more about it.
Absolutely.
And food is a massive part of what we do as well. So if you're a big foodie, then somewhere like 67 is perfect because you not only have great food, but you're understanding what wines pair with that food and why, and what are the seasonal ingredients. So it is wine, but it's enjoying wine. And who doesn't want to enjoy wine?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So as a member, is a member able to bring a non-member at all, say if it's for entertainment purposes or with the view of maybe introducing a non-member to 67 Pall Mall?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's, to be honest, how our membership grows. And it's certainly how it grew in the beginning. Is it was really important to us that it was all organic, because we wanted to be able to make sure that everyone in that membership either we had met or was proposed by an existing member. So that was really important to us. But yeah, members can bring up to 5 guests throughout the course of the day. They can have private events of obviously up to whatever capacity. And yeah, we're very much all about including the guests because, to be honest, for us, those guests are potential members. And that's how we grow, that's how we build. So yeah, it's very important to us that even guests of members just have the most amazing time.
All right, brilliant.
So that's very important for us.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. And last year you guys launched your virtual membership, which offers members regular updates on upcoming wine tastings, access to live masterclasses on demand. Was that seen as an opportunity to introduce a wider audience to the world of fine wine, and how was that transition?
So I remember in our old office, actually, we had this ginormous screen, which obviously had all the breaking news on it. And I remember so clearly we were all there. I think we'd opened something. It was about 5:00. And then it came up with the lockdown. And it happened all very quickly. And literally the next day, we just got on the phone to all of our friends in the industry and put together a 2-week calendar or so that was maybe 1 event a day. And it just blew up from there. And the virtual membership, it allowed us to reach more people who really loved wine. And at £10 a month, it's very reasonably priced.
That is.
And to be honest, with that, it comes from the club about all the tastings that we have coming up. And for UK and Europe, we have sent the wine tasting packs as well. So we use the Coravin device, which is our best friend.
It is.
And we were able to break down bottles into sample tasting packs and then ship them out to everyone in the UK and Europe. So for us, it's reaching more people who maybe wouldn't necessarily either travel to London, so a membership wouldn't make sense for them. We have an overseas membership, actually. I should have mentioned that one. Based on 90 days a year in the UK.
Yeah.
So especially for our overseas members, obviously virtual membership was automatically included in our current members. But it was just reaching new people, and it gave them the opportunity to then be flexible about what they wanted to watch, what they wanted to tune into, and meet some more of our team, meet winemakers and have the opportunity to ask some questions as well. But it's so funny looking back at our very very first Zoom tasting, and someone came on and was typing expletives, and I kept being like, I'm terribly sorry to all of our members, and they were calling me horrific names.
What was that? Someone who was hosting a tasting that was typing that?
Yeah, it was our first one. I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Jasper's actually.
Right.
But we were obviously there. You go on, you're sort of monitoring the chat.
Yes.
And I think someone came on as I'm trying to think what it was now. I don't know, I've got big balls or whatever his name was, and you just think, oh, you shouldn't be on here.
No.
And then, every expletive under the sun was used, and then you kick them out. Obviously, I screenshotted it and saved it because it was hilarious. But then you just learn from there, and it's so funny looking back at the very, very first one, and then you understand that, the camera has to be here, and the sound quality and everything, And so from that initial tasting, we were doing 3 or 4 a day, Monday to Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, so the calendar just exploded.
Yes.
And naturally, you want to include people who aren't members because, we're pushing all this content out there.
Yeah.
And anyone can log into the Zooms, anyone can watch them again. But that membership just made sure that we really tied in those people. And, when we reopen, hopefully they'll come and visit us.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. All right. And it has recently been announced that 67 Pall Mall will be hosting a fundraising dinner in honour of the late Gerard Basset, titled the Gerard Basset Travel Scholarship 2021. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so Gerard was a great, great friend of the club, and a great friend of Ronan Saban as well, who's our head of wine, and was also a judge for the scholarship. So sommeliers, wine professionals are basically asked to write a sort of 500-word essay about why they should get the grant, which was, I believe it's the same this year, but it was £5,000 as a sort of travel bursary. So it's sort of, where would they go? Why would they go there? And what would they do with that money, essentially? So Tim Atkin as well, who's a great friend of the club, was also judging. And I think Nina as well.
Yes.
Nina Basset.
Yes.
Absolutely lovely and very much involved, of course, in the scholarship. So,
brilliant.
very, very happy to host.
All right, good. And we're speaking of lockdown and when everything is over, what are your initial plans? You plan on taking a holiday, or you plan on maybe going out to a restaurant at first, or?
Yeah, do you know what? I was actually having this conversation the other day, and I was thinking about all the restaurants that I want to go to because I want to get my bookings in now.
Yes.
Because I feel as though, let's say, fingers crossed, Boris is kind to us and potentially lets us out, I don't know, April, May? What do you think?
I'm hoping so. I'm planning for a summer holiday this year.
Are you?
I think my director wants to go first. I don't know if I'll be able to, but if there is a window of opportunity, I definitely want to go.
Yeah. So I was lining up all the restaurants that I really want to go to, and I'm just going to book for sort of mid-May.
Yes.
Because once the floodgates open, everyone's going to want to get out. So I feel like it will be like a wild goose chase to get those reservations.
It will be.
So I think I've never been to L'escargot, and I've always really wanted to go. So that's on my list. But to be honest, I'm just so excited to get back to 67. I really am. And when you're spoilt with that wine list, that sounds really marketing-y, doesn't it? I'm so excited to go back to where I work. But no, I am really excited for it to open because, I mean, the wine list is just amazing. And I'm so spoilt with it, that...
How many of the wines which are on the wine list are you able to sample for free or maybe at a discounted price, being obviously a vital employee of 67 Pall Mall?
I mean, there is a sort of staff discount for the wines if we were to sort of purchase them off the list. Members are incredibly generous as well with all the staff. If they've opened something that they believe is really special, they are amazing at sharing it with the staff because they want us to try it, especially we've got 17 sommeliers as well who work full time.
Yeah.
So it's obviously really important for them. If someone's opening something brilliant, they'll want our opinion, the sommelier's opinion. So in that respect, the members are very, very generous. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's part of everyone's education, to be honest. So I'll go to as many tastings as I can, as many events as I can to really absorb all the knowledge because, from communications point of view, I certainly didn't start at 67 as a wine expert. Always love my wine, always love my food. But in terms of individual producers, regions, grape varieties, you literally have to learn on the job.
Yes.
And fortunately, learning comes with sampling one or two.
Of course. What's been the greatest pour from a client at 67 Pall Mall when they've said to you, "Here you are, Stephanie, try this"? Ooh. So like one of the old Bordeaux's or Italians or champagne?
Oh, that's such a great question. There was a Latour 90.
Wow.
that really sticks with me, actually. That was a real treat. And you know what? I think it was a Friday evening at about 7:30, and I was just wandering through. And there was a member there who had literally just opened it, and it was decanted. And obviously I was like, my ears pricked up.
Yes.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. I also really love champagne and all sparkling wines, actually.
Okay.
Big French Quarter fan. But there have been some outstanding O2s, because Billacart O2 is one of my favourite champagnes of all time.
Okay. What about Salon? Have you ever...
Yeah, I have. Salon was very nice.
Special.
My husband won't like this, but I had an ex-boyfriend who had lots of that.
Really?
So that was really fun. Whoops.
Is he ex because you took all his Salon and then
Probably,
went?
yeah.
All right. What about then... obviously, you mentioned your... Off camera, you love Italy.
Yes.
And one of the places you'd like to go once lockdown is over and we're able to travel would be Italy. So where in Italy would you like to go, and what kind of things would you like to do in Italy?
Well, I absolutely love Tuscany. Love it. And Montalcino in particular.
Yes.
I just love it. And you have... Super Tuscans are obviously a little bit further north, but you have... like the Luce estate, which I absolutely love. And just going to visit all the producers, you know, and some of them are just farmers in the middle of nowhere, and they almost have no idea what incredible wines they're producing.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
And it's also just their culture there, you know, they're just all about amazing food and cracking wine.
Yes.
And when you're in that environment, it's just amazing. You properly switch off, and it's such a gastronomic area. And the wines there as well are usually better value than you would buy them here. And there is just wine shop after wine shop walking down the street. The restaurants are great.
So what would be your go-to food and wine pairing be?
Go-to food and wine.
For me, I'm quite boring. I'm more just a piece of steak.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually.
Some skinny fries.
Yeah.
And maybe a high-end Bordeaux or even a high-end Malbec.
Yeah.
It's a safe option, but it's a happy option.
Great option. Yeah. To be honest, what would I go for? I actually really love a Rosso di Montalcino. So it's sort of the bit that they call it sort of Brunello's baby brother, you know, because they're not from that. It's not as sometimes when you're eating loads of rich food with all this rich wine, it can make me feel a bit so actually a really lovely Rosso and a sort of Chengali stew or something.
Nice.
Would be a really nice pairing. Also, because I'm a massive sushi fan, and I do love a bit of sparkling.
Yes.
Some champagne and sushi.
Actually, going back to sparkling, your view on English wine or English sparkling in particular. I'm an advocate of it, mainly Nye Timber.
Yeah. Yep.
What's your opinion?
I absolutely love English sparkling, and my dad is actually an obsessive sort of UK produced kind of guy.
Is he?
Yeah, he just loves everything that's produced in the
Wow.
UK. So we're lucky because he always has something different in the fridge whenever we go home. And yeah, do you know what? Gusbourne's actually been a feature of 67 actually.
Yeah.
And what's great is that I think the problem is with some sort of bigger events is that people don't see English sparkling in the same way as they see champagne. It's almost as though champagne is sort of the man in the suit, you know, and English sparkling is more of a, I don't know, what's one down from a suit? Dungarees?
It's just in a tracksuit.
In a tracksuit.
Yeah.
So, but the quality is matched, you know. And we actually did a blind tasting of champagne versus English sparkling, and it was level-headed.
Yeah.
It was really level-headed, and it's. I also think it's quite exciting to see that grow. You know, we're seeing a different wine that's being produced, and we're almost witnessing the change. So, in 20 years' time, English sparkling could be perceived on equal ground as champagne, and we were the ones that saw that happening, you know, which I think is really exciting.
I think that will happen because obviously we referenced Stephen Spurrier Judgment of Paris.
Yes.
Napa versus Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And we look at what Napa's become now.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that with English sparkling in particular.
Absolutely.
Obviously English still wine's very good, but English sparkling in particular I feel will rival, if not overtake, French champagne.
Yeah. And I think also from an educational perspective as well, I think it's so great that people in the UK, have a little sort of wine growing area to go to and sort of get to grips with winemaking and actually going to see the vines themselves and see what people do. And I think it's really exciting. No. And it's delicious as well.
Absolutely, it is. And I don't know if you're able to answer this question, so if not, you don't need to. But going back to the membership selection process, it sounds obviously it's very rigorous.
Yes.
What is it that a member should not do, or what is it about a member that will make 6-7 Pall Mall say, "Thank you for your application, but no, thank you"? And are they then blacklisted permanently, or are they able to change their whatever it may be to be accepted again in the future?
I mean, 67 are quite liberal in terms of what is bad behaviour, which is obviously a dream scenario as an employee, because we do have a lot of fun. I mean, in terms of an application, usually if they're sponsored and we meet them, it's fine. To be honest, it's not necessarily behaviour, it's more how they treat the staff. So we're very hot on, if someone's just being a bit of a dick, then you're out. Because what we do, we work really hard to do what we do. And there's absolutely no excuse for any form of mistreatment of the staff, whether it's verbal, whatever. People do have a tendency on occasion to have a little bit too much to drink. And, if that's the case and they're rude, then...
Snapping the fingers and making demands.
Yeah, and it's more, some people can just be very, very sort of aggressively rude as well.
I'm paraphrasing this, I'm probably bastardising this, but Muhammad Ali, I think, put it very well as well. He said, a person who's nice to me but is horrible to a waiter or waitress is not a nice person.
It says so much about someone's character as well, I think.
Massively.
Because all our waiters, our waitresses, our sommeliers, they're all incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly lovely, and work really bloody hard, quite frankly. Exactly. So if someone's going to disrespect them in any way, then that's a real sort of red flag for us. Agreed. Because especially as, let's say, that person then introduces their friends that's sort of used to that treatment, it's just not the vibe that we want. No. We're super relaxed, Our staff become friends of the members, We're there to share our wine with fellow wine lovers. We're not there to be snobs. We're not there to judge. So if someone is going to take advantage of that, then that's not for us.
No. Agreed. All right, and just lastly then, once we ease lockdown and life is beginning to get back to normal, what does the future look like moving forward for 6-7 Pall Mall? What can we expect?
Well, we're sort of taking our Zoom tastings up a notch, and we're launching a TV channel in April, which is really exciting. And it's basically programming that encompasses what we've done over the last year, but it's a lot more professionally recorded, and we're sending film crews out everywhere, basically. Wow. So France, Italy, Australia. We've got a sort of Singapore office, obviously, for all of the virtual tastings. So they focus on sort of Asia and Australasia. And we've had live tastings from Napa as well. And so, we've got an amazing team that have joined us on the TV side of things.
Will that TV channel just be, say, via YouTube, or specifically just to 67pallmall.com?
So it's 67pallmall.tv. So it's an internet channel. And when you go on there, you'll just see a screen. And there'll be a menu on the side so that you can watch on demand as well. Wow. So the programming will sort of suit each time zone. So if we're looking at Singapore, London and Napa, essentially. And it will be everything from a year in the vineyard. So we're going to film documentaries that sees what the winemaker has to go throughout the course of the year. Even food as well. We've got programs called Ingredient, which will basically travel the world on a culinary level, and look at all the seasonal ingredients per winemaking region, and then pair those dishes with wine, obviously. Yes. Which it will be very exciting, because you get to go and meet all these great chefs from around the world and see what they're up to and what's seasonal for them. We have documentaries purely based on a specific estate, so you can really sort of get to grips with the history of a particular vineyard. And also ones that go outside of wine as well. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, art, sport, anything. And we'll have documentaries that are based on wine. Nice. That go outside the box slightly. Because again, you're sort of capturing people where because you're not making wine the ultimate focus and you're not doing a sort of geeky, boring tasting, it will just, pique the interests of a lot more people. And ultimately want to know what 67 is about, because it's not just about expensive, inaffordable wine. It's really bringing everyone together over a shared love rather than judging.
Yes, perfect. All right, well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, and we look forward to having you on again in the near future. So thank you once again for joining us, and until then, all the best.